Welcome everybody back to another episode of Woven Wings Live, where we bring you wisdom and tools for vibrant living. I'm Gabe Crane, and I'm joined by my co-host Rahul Didwania. And if you enjoy listening to us, please share our podcast with a friend or leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also join our newsletter, which is linked in the show description, to follow along on the journey. Our episode today is Katsugen, the gentle art of well-being. And our guest is Richard Omura, who's one of the foremost Western experts in this form, Katsugen. What is Katsugen? What is this practice that I think a lot of folks have not heard of? And what's the philosophy behind it? Where does it come from? What's its history?
I found this practice through my illness. I had a brain tumor, and my mom, she took me to this healer named Dr. Noguchi, and he made this practice because he was a healer that had this innate ability to heal people, but he also was trained in various modalities, and I don't know if you can say discover or he formulated this practice in order to supplement the practice that he had, because he would treat people one-on-one, but he didn't have enough time to treat everybody. So he said, well, you guys do this practice first, and it's a way of self-healing. And so that's what he did, and I learned it from him. And I learned this when I was a kid, and I just learned it by rote. I didn't really know why it worked or if it even worked. I just did it because my mom said I should do it. And so I did it, and I kind of forgot about it. I quite didn't get it, because I was a kid. But it wasn't until I think it was in my early 20s that I decided, hey, I have this practice. I haven't really done anything with it. So I decided to work on it, because that was, around the age when I was going into all kinds of discoveries of myself. I was reading various philosophical books and spiritual books, and I was experimenting with hallucinogens, and I was just basically exploring life in all its aspects. And Katsugen was, something that just came up in my mind. I said, you know what? No one's heard of this. I got to figure out if this really works or what it's all about. And so I started to do it on my own. It was amazing. I would do it to music in the beginning, and every time I would feel like kind of lethargic or dull or things were out of sorts, I would do this, the Katsugen, and it would just revive me, just make me feel so joyful about life.
How does it work? What exactly are you doing that's bringing that out? Or, what is it that's taking place within ourselves or in our bodies to encourage that connection with innate joy?
Based on my experiences, that many of the things that stress us out and create problems in our lives is because of our obsession with our own ego. And that if we kind of lose our ego, we don't have as much stress. Because what causes stress, our mental stress, is because we're always thinking, how's it going to benefit me, or how's it going to hurt me? And it's all about me and me and me, and that's what causes stress. If you forget about that, really there isn't all that stress that comes with it. But the thing is, the difficult part is that we still have to live in this materialistic society. We still have to deal with a lot of these things. And if it was a perfect world, I can just tap into that joy and that universal feeling I have when I do Katsugen. But the fact is, there are still things in life that, worries us, stresses us out, hurts us. It's not an easy life. And we're always taught to fight against it. We got to fight these things. We got to battle against it. We have to have a certain amount of material stuff. We have to raise our status level in order to be accepted and validated and all this. But a lot of that is just based on our values. And when we have the Katsugen movement, it's like you get down to what really is important.
How is that harmful? What is it doing on the physiological level to us? And how do we get out of that? Why is it important that we get out of that into a more natural way of being?
There are a lot of things that we learn by rote that is very important. We have to keep those things. And that's the difficulty of knowing what to keep and what to throw away. And that's something that you can only learn through your own experience. things like that. And that's what's good about Katsugen, is that actually when you start doing that on a regular basis, you don't have that as much. You feel like all that energy has been dissipated through doing Katsugen.
How do you reconcile what might be some of the real world considerations that do matter with this idea of what I'm understanding the practice to be, which is tuning into our own authentic selves and allowing that to express itself?
The fact is that, like I mentioned before, we live in this world and we have to deal with the facts, and we are conditioned. We can't just break that conditioning just like that. It's not that easy. And I think the whole adventure is the process of kind of trying to figure out what works for you. There's no set rule like you have to completely get rid of all your conditioning. You might want to keep some, but it's up to you and how much you want to be free to what crowd, to which person. Because, we can't help but respond differently to each person because each person has their own way. We don't want to be two-faced. We want to be authentic, but we want to also take into consideration the other person's feelings and their circumstances. If they don't feel comfortable with you being totally free, and a lot of people aren't, you just have to kind of say, well, I want to be more free, but I can't because this would offend that person. So basically, you just kind of go according to how you feel. Like, in other words, that part of that feeling that has compassion and wants to accommodate that person is also part of that divine joy that's within you.
What actually matters in life is our own personal relationship with ourselves, with nature, with God, with a sense of something beyond us. And I think that's what we're talking about here, of being tapped into. Richard, what do you think about that?
That's the thing, that once I started to practice Katsugen regularly, and over the years, I began to have a better idea of my own inner reality and how that affects my outer reality. And one of the things that I discovered was this place within me that was covered up with all this negative energies and just extraneous energies. And that once I got rid of that through movement, I find myself in this place of peace. And I built my meditation practice on that.
I'm curious if you could just, again, this will just be kind of just a little taste of something, but I'm curious if you could lead us through some movements and some opening to ourselves that kind of allows us and our listeners to connect with this in a more tangible, personal way.
Basically, it's very simple. It's so simple that a lot of people find it hard. And the basic movement is, I guess there can be other ways to do this, but the way that I've been taught is to do something a little bit unnatural to the body. So basically, Katsugen is activating our autonomic nervous systems by doing something a little bit unnatural. See, the autonomic nervous system tends to correct things, to makes things stable in our body. So when we do something a little bit unnatural, it will respond to that.